I just wanted to, before we dive into like structure and how we compose our poems, I wanted to talk about why like I write poems personally, and Julie, you can chime in. But so content, poetry is not always beautiful. It's to me, it's supposed to be visceral. It's supposed to like knock you off your feet and like just knock the wind out of your lungs. And
when you say visceral, that's a word that means
like very immediate, and you can like feel it. It's
your
like
body
really raw.
reacts.
Yeah, your body reacts in like that very physical way.
Okay.
So to me, that's what poetry is supposed to do. I mean, all art is supposed to make you feel that sort of connection. And I think the best poem is the type that leaves you changed. Any type of art is that's what art is supposed to do. When you go into a piece like this, you come out feeling a little different.
The main thing is just to change someone's perspective, even just a little bit, on what you're talking about. And I guess the best way to do that is to write about what you really care about. Because if you really care about it, then your audience will really care about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a personal experience, even though, you know, it can be. It can be like, you can write about a spaceship, and then if you really care about that spaceship, your audience will too. And it's just a matter of finding the right way you want to present your topic.
That's fun.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't know what to write about," but that's not true. You guys have so much to write about, which is why you guys have a hard time like narrowing it down. And just a piece of advice would be details. I mean, you've got to be super observant, and then you just notice, because you see the world differently than I do. No one sees the world the same way, and that's what poetry should be, is sharing your point of view. And for me, I like to take something like a normal detail, but then present it in a way that's not normal. It gives it like a different spin, and then it makes it fresh and interesting.
For me, like, the best way to convey how you feel particularly about a specific subject is to use really specific imagery in really specific situations, because counterintuitively, the more specific your imagery becomes, the wider your audience is, because they will be able to put themselves in your shoes and really feel like what you're feeling, what you want to convey. Because like if you portray a specific story, then that makes your audience feel emotional and feel what you want to make them feel, rather than like a vague phrase.
Sounds like to me kind of like when Bradbury writes and creates this
Bradbury,
dystopian
for
society,
sure.
right? When they include the details, somehow we're able to imagine and step more into that world, even though we were not there. Sounds like?
For sure, yeah. So like if you, like instead of saying like, I loved her, you might want to talk about a specific instance where like you helped her find her lost dog like for hours, you know, in the rain, or that will really like show not tell, I guess is what I'm saying. And
That's what they add. So once I wrote in a poem, I wrote the phrase, a mother's love, and like fellow editors came up to me and was like, why did you put mother's love? When you put mother's love, I can't like visualize that, because mother's love can mean so many different things. So what does that mean to you? And then that really like stuck with me, because I realized that people are interested in what this certain thing looks like to me. So mother's love is a very abstract like term. So they wanted me to narrow it down and something specific to me, so that my readers can experience my version of mother's love, whether that is her brushing my hair or, you know, waking me up in the morning.
And Cassandra, I noticed that in your spoken word that when you used food,
Yeah.
and you talked about Elon eating something very specific, and even though I didn't know what that was in his culture, when you mentioned the zongzi, and you spoke in Mandarin and you honored your culture in that language, that is the sticky rice that every Chinese person knows about. And so I connected with you as an audience member when you did that.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting, like, you can't ever be too specific, I think.
Yeah.
Because then people will pick up on things like that, you know, and that'll surprise you how much people can connect with the details of your poem.
So it sounds like when you write poetry, you're not worried about will someone get this? Will they understand this Chinese phrase? You're honoring, like, this is something that's a specific detail that matters to me, and you're almost trusting that it's just going to travel on some nice boat in the performance, and that someone will be moved or get it in a general broad sense.
Yeah, because especially with slam poetry, you guys didn't get all the lines from my poem, and I didn't get all the lines from Julia's poem, and that's okay. And actually, a lot of poets go in with this mentality that not every line is going to be heard, and that's fine. But that's why I think that's what makes poetry so special, because you can go back and like rewatch videos, and you can watch them over and over and over again, and every time something like different sticks out to you, right? And so that's the value. And then if you want to highlight certain lines, you can pause right before it, or sort of isolate it, or put like alliteration or some sort of structure.
And that pause that you're talking about is very important in poetry. It's what sets it apart from prose, and it's called a lot of different things. It's just a blank space, and it allows for audience closure. And what that means is it's time for the audience to process what you've just said, and to like make conclusions based on the lines you've already said, and then also make predictions about following lines. And it's something that prose doesn't have, because prose has a wider margin, I guess, and they can explain it more, but poetry you have a very limited number of words. And yeah, they're not going to hear every word, but every word should mean something.
Every word should mean something. So I hear two things here. I'm going to pause if that's okay, just to paraphrase. You bring up the idea of pause, and that's something we did not talk about in this class. So I love that in performance poetry, that's just a very key element. And it sounds like you might pause after a thought, a stanza, quote unquote, or like something where it's like a breath.
Yeah.
And you're giving that audience some time to kind of take their breath a bit and take in what you just said. And then the second thing you just said, I lost my train of thought, was, what did you just mention?
Every word.
Yeah.
Every word matters. So you're auditioning words. You're like, do I really need this word? Because if I don't, I'll take it out.
Yeah.
And if I do use this word, there's love, do I want to use love? Do I want to use like? Do I want to use loathing? Like, you're auditioning word choice. Diction matters a lot.
Sure. I mean, there's so much like connotation. Each word carries like that meaning attached to it. So that's why you really have to expand your vocabulary, because you don't want to. I mean, one thing you do want to avoid is just going to the dictionary, just looking up words that like. I mean, yeah, they might fit, but not really, because if